Okay, so here's the thing, right? I love this movie. Mickey 17 is the latest Bong Joon Ho movie based on the book Mickey 7 by Edward Ashton, released only a couple years ago in 2022. Though I haven't read the book myself, the movie does feel like a faithful adaptation, given the quirky and unique direction the story is taken in from a writing perspective. The story at its core maintains an almost hopeful or aspirational fairy tale about the soul and the human condition, despite the bleak capitalist canvas the backdrop of the film is painted on. Through its delightfully punchy and contemplative story, writing, and cinematography, Mickey 17 flies right by through the 2 hour and 17-minute runtime. I was not expecting to laugh as much as I did during this movie, but the bone-dry humor Bong Joon Ho brings to the script and the characters really made my day. I recognize dark humor isn't everyone's deal, but in the context it played authentic, and I can always get behind that. Slight context, from what I understand, the marketing for this movie was fumbled slightly due to release delays from the writer's strike and other world events that I will get into more in the spoiler section, as a literal thing that happened in real life happens almost exactly in this film, which is wild. Regardless, I was excited for the movie's release, even if it was a year past the due date. Though apparently the general audience's interest and attention spans go about as far as I can throw a fridge, given the North American opening box office numbers were less than the film deserved in my opinion. I digress. Our main character, Mickey Barnes, played by the wonderfully talented Edward Cullen. Cedric Diggory. Robert Pattinson. Enrolls himself as an expendable aboard an interplanetary exploration vessel. This means he is bound by contract to explore or perform dangerous tasks and tests for the betterment of mankind, even if it means his repeated bodily sacrifice. After the mission goes awry, the 17th Mickey evades a death that was almost certain and returns to the ship to find the scientists have already reprinted him. Through a twisty, turny, macabre, romantic comedy, sci-fi, almost action adventure, Bong Joon Ho presents an incredibly unique and enjoyable experience with surprises and unexpected avenues abound. Robert Pattinson gives multiple enjoyable and unique performances in this film. His accent and vocal character is unexpected, and although showcased in the trailer, his almost nasally, quiet-natured Mickey is refreshingly unique. As for other standout performances, I have to give massive props to Mark Ruffalo and Toni Collette for their outlandish political figures heading the expedition. Though I could have always wanted Ruffalo to have pushed the envelope ever so slightly more than he did, I appreciate and applaud his over-the-top performance. Toni Collette's Yifa was unexpected, as I didn't realize she was in the film until seeing the poster while walking through the theater. Her overtly on-the-nose, coaxing wife character was extremely entertaining, poignant, and well-acted throughout. I could have always used more Steven Yeun, who plays Timo. Though he is not as integral or interesting of a character, his acting chops, charisma, and general existence all lend themselves nicely to the story. My one gripe acting-wise was with Naomi Ackie, who plays Nasha Berridge, a love interest for Mickey and almost a foil to the character's gentle nature. I didn't find her performance to be bad by any means. In fact, there are a few monologues within her character's time on screen that I enjoy overall. My main issue lied with the writing of the character on the whole, which led Ackie to, in my view, feel the need to overact or oversell most of what she was doing to make any of her character's lines and actions enjoyable or believable, which I believe works more often than not, but nonetheless doesn't shine amongst the other performances. Oh, also, Anna Maria Vartolome's Kai suffers a similar issue, though I'm going to place more blame on the actress in this case. Under normal circumstances, her performance would be passable, but against the backdrop of this story with oozing atmosphere and intricate character work, her performance comes off more wooden than not, more often than not. Sorry. Without giving anything away, this film tries to tackle a whole lot of topics in its runtime, from addressing political and religious fanaticism to the human condition. I appreciate everything they put forward thematically, and I think they hit on each topic enough for me to be more than satisfied with the film as a whole. The cinematography is engaging and intentional almost throughout the entire runtime, capturing the ship, the architecture, as well as the explored worlds overall, and it was very enjoyable to watch. There are a couple not as clean effects moments where I can tell there are green screens and sound stages involved, but overall it doesn't take away from the experience enough to be distracting or bad in any way. Incoming gripes, though not many. Context for me, I don't enjoy not liking things or finding and seeing flaws in most anything. I get a stomachache when I walk out of a film I didn't enjoy. I'm a likey guy. That being said, there are a few pacing issues in the last third of the movie that almost pull me out of it. This comes from either slightly repetitive script writing or lingering character and story moments that aren't edited as cleanly as I feel the majority of the film is, especially in the script. Though I feel 90% of the character writing is well thought out, effective, and natural, there are a few clunky pieces of dialogue delivered by a handful of characters that stand out in my mind. I would also say the music isn't all that special. It's not bad by any means, and it does lend itself well to the environment, but it's by no means a massive plus to the film overall. If you want my conclusion and score, skip to this timestamp for no spoilers. Otherwise, in we go. The introduction this movie gives the audience is exactly the perfect litmus test for if you'll like what it has to offer. Mickey, laid covered in snow, out loud confused why he isn't dead from a fall, is met by Timo, Steven Yeun. Instead of helping the injured Mickey, he retrieves his rifle, which is later revealed to fuel the character's drug trade aboard the ship, which is even more gray and good-naturedly pessimistic than I originally thought. As Timo explains why it's more economically responsible to just leave him to freeze and die than to help him, in a tone-deaf and cheery tone, he asks Mickey, "What's it like to die?" If that level of cheerily presented pessimistic commentary on human value, both monetary and emotional, doesn't make your mouth curl up in a Grinch-style grin at the beginning of the movie, it may not be your jammiest of jams. This question is asked a fair amount of times in the movie, by a couple different characters for a multitude of reasons, which I found very compelling. One of my favorite uses of this question was with the Kai character, actually. There is an accident involving a small group of characters, including Mickey, that kills a non-expendable crew member. When the surviving crewmates return, Mickey is chastised by Ruffalo's apathetic captain character for not lending his meaningless life in the place of the crew member. There are references to genetic superiority and pure recolonization that fuel his frustration with the death, as opposed to the humanistic and emotional reasoning one of us normal people would use. This is one of the more overt pieces of commentary the captain represents and pushes. I'll let you figure out that one on your own. In a moment of human reasoning and grief, Kai, whose partner was the crew member who died, asks Mickey, "What is it like to die?" This repeat of the question is so heartfelt and earnest, and I loved its recontextualization. Mickey's response is very mundane, stating it's not all that special to him because he's died so much. But on a physical level, it isn't not painful either. His acknowledgement of the lack of feeling he has towards dying due to the knowledge he won't actually die is very hefty. You gain and maintain worth in the life experience with the knowledge that it will end. Very neat, a bit sad, but a beautiful idea. This movie plays with little multiplicity in that it is hinted at and then presented later that the Mickeys all have slightly differing personalities or tendencies as he is reincarnated. They don't go over the top with that concept and in fact almost mention it in passing, which is admirable in my opinion. Bong could have 100% made a good portion of the comedy from the handful of Pattinsons interacting and disagreeing and causing mayhem, and he didn't. In fact, he presents the concept gently as another color on the canvas as opposed to the whole painting, lightly insinuating that although the perception and respect for expendables is less than human, the individuality of each reincarnation is both special and unique, being lumped together as one expendable asset, when the reality is he is a valuable member of society and that every expendable is still a human person. Good shit, Bong. Moving on to Captain Kenneth Marshall, Mark Ruffalo's character. He plays a failed politician hoping to lead an expedition to other planets to establish a genetically pure society full of religiously devout and fanatic supporters, as funded by the company, which is the church in this world. Yeah, pretty overt. It seemed clear to me that Ruffalo's performance and character took inspiration from whatever world leaders stand for similar principles, but who am I to say? On to the real events impacting the release of the film. This is just my speculation, we'll never get it confirmed whether or not this actually did provide another reason outside of the writer's strike to delay the film, but in any event, tinfoil hat time. There was an attempted assassination of an up-and-coming world leader in July of 2024. The film was originally going to release in theaters on the 29th of March of that year, which I know is before the attempt, but stick with me. Production delays related to writer's strike in 2023 are what is said to have delayed the film entirely, which is believable, of course. Bong Joon Ho even stated that it allowed them more time to work on it, and he was given full creative control in that period of time, which is very cool. Why I bring this up. In the movie, Mark Ruffalo's character, giving a speech to a crowd of supporters, discussing the future of their political escapades as it pertains to the purity of their race moving forward, is shot at by an emotionally unstable Mickey 18. The bullet grazes his cheek, and the people in the crowd are running in fear as the shooter is detained. Now, that fictional sequence of events, written years prior to the film being released, is eerily similar to the real-world events that took place not long after the original date. My thought is that they wanted to give as much time between the actual event and the fictional event in the film so as to not spark as much controversy. Personally, the satire mirroring reality before reality happens is surreal and is a fun reflection of where we are at in society. But fucking, what do I know? Anyway, whatever the case may be, although I did quite enjoy his characterization and performance as a whole, I think he could have gone a bit farther on some things, but he fit the world just fine. Most unexpected performance in this movie for me was from Toni Collette. Yifa is so outlandish and painfully tone deaf that my mouth was agape with both surprise and glee every time her character spoke. Her consistent peddling of the sauce as a representation for drinking the Kool-Aid is out there in its presentation, but extremely poignant and enjoyable. Getting into the final section of the movie, when she uses an untested, unsanitary tail from one of the alien creatures as an ingredient for more sauce, that is the part that sells the point the best. In my mind, this is to mirror people's obsession with alternative medicine and fanatics too deep in the sauce, believing in and pushing their product. She even feeds the unfiltered tail juice to Marshall, who later coughs, alluding to the sickness he has most likely contracted from the inadvertent poisoning. Did not expect such a dig on the anti-vaxxers from a space rom-com. What a time we live in. Another unexpected bit that really grew into something spectacular, the alien creatures. Firstly, the designs are so neat. They're like armadillo mammoths with udder mouths. Secondly, their application as a representation of native peoples and the relationship they have to colonizers is so well presented. Not only do Marshall and Yifa view them as subhuman without knowing anything about them or their culture, but the immediate call for war on and the extermination of the native species so that they may take residence is well executed moving into the third act. Learning they have a language and are capable of emotional connection and cultural exchange, only for that information to be tossed away in favor of war and the betterment of the superior race. Pretty ballsy, Bong. Well done. Just a couple things I didn't like all that much. The first 2/3, in my opinion, are really consistent in pacing, editing, and writing for the most part. When we get into the last third, it drags a bit with a handful of extended pieces of dialogue and lingering beats in the editing and the plot. Though most of the actors are doing exceptional jobs, the weakness of the script in this final section shows enough to notice. One of my main gripes with this film is the love interests. Nasha Berridge, the main love interest, has a handful of moments that I appreciate and enjoy throughout the film. They even use her in this film to present the concept of loving someone, Mickey, through the many iterations of their life, which I found profound and neat. But her lack of a character arc or real tangible substance as a standalone character really brings down my enjoyment of most of her moments. Naomi Ackie brings so much to the character with her manic energy and exuberance, it all just doesn't hit for me as much as I feel it should. There are definitely moments where it works, but a majority of the time, I just wasn't as engaged with her character as I wanted to be. Same goes for Kai, although more so considering she's in the film for way less time. That character was a whole heck of a lot more one-note and pointless than Nasha was. There's a sequence of events that causes Kai and Nasha to debate about who gets what Mickey for what romantic and or physical purpose, which is funny and is a nice reprieve from the building tension of the imminent war between the people and these little guys. But that conversation is almost useless as Kai doesn't serve any purpose to the story or stakes, so it was funny, but in retrospect, it's just kind of a Twinkie character. No substance, no meat to it. I thought the Yifa reprinting Marshall with the machine nightmare at the end was cool in concept, but in an already weirdly paced last section of the film, the cost for me outweighed the benefit. Last big thing was pacing. You've heard me talk about it here and there, but just as a summation, this film's greatest weakness is the pacing, especially in the back half, with some exceptions. There is an odd story structure permeating throughout the experience that made me feel a wide array of emotions, most of which were positive. However, there are moments that 100% could have and should have been trimmed. I loved the quirk of this movie a lot. It made my heart happy. But to keep that charm, you have to run a tight ship on the editing, or the quirk becomes a bore or a drag on a wonderfully unique and creative display. I had a lot of fun with this movie. Great acting throughout, really intriguing story and messages, great political commentary. Definitely some unexpected plot elements, character moments, and story beats for sure. If you're a fan of deadpan, dry humor, outlandish characters, and earnest storytelling, give this a watch for sure. Be aware, this is a really odd and off-the-wall movie, and I don't expect everyone to connect with it, like it, or appreciate it the same way I do. Though not flawless, this one's successes far outweigh its faults for me. When you make a dark, twisted comedy that plays like a live-action Miyazaki film, you will 9 times out of 10 capture my heart. And that's about it. Thanks for getting through the whole thing. I appreciate it. I know it's a lot, I know it's very silly, but put a lot of work into this one, learning 5 different programs. I just wanted to make sure that it was just about right for what I wanted to do, and I think it turned out great. I wanted to bring something more personal to the review space, and I think I had a fun time doing it, and I'm going to continue doing it. So that'll be super great. I'm going to be uploading fairly frequently because I enjoyed this process a lot, and I hope I can continue to do it. If you want to hear more music like the music you heard in this video, you should follow Anton Griffin on YouTube. He's a great musician and a great kid. The next time you see me, I will either be talking for too long or extremely, extremely mad. So, I've been hyper unfocused. Thanks for watching.